So good morning, everybody. We're still gonna, give a couple minutes for people to join in. I see all, pouring in. Yeah. Okay, so I think we're good now. I think we can get started officially. So yes, welcome everyone to the Microsoft New Commerce Experience December update. This time, we really believe that we have the billing structure nailed down. So this presentation will really focus on the practicality of adding a new customer on the legacy platform in the upcoming months, what the price increase is going to look like on the legacy platform, and then the same thing on the new commerce side. I've split the webinar in two to have actually like two sections of Q&As, but because I have my faithful partner Nick Ford on the call, he will likely be, checking the chat for questions and interrupting me, to kind of address those questions right away. So we may not pass a lot of times on the actual Q&As, but I do anticipate that there will be a lot of questions. Well, hopefully, hopefully everybody understands everything right away. But it's always good to have interaction from people. So if anyone doesn't know me, I'm Alex, right? I have a huge title, and I'm joined by Nick Ford, who's the partner sales manager at Sherweb. And the agenda, like I just mentioned, legacy timeline update, pricing examples, Q&A, and then the same thing for NCE. So the first thing was the latest update on the timeline for legacy that was announced about a week or so ago, almost 2 weeks ago. I'm putting the official announcement, on the screen as well, so that you can take a screenshot and look it up yourself. So what Microsoft said with this latest update is that they are extending the period for subscriptions to be renewed on the legacy platform all the way to June 30th instead of March 10th. This will give, more time, to get ready for a new commerce experience for everyone. But the ability to place new orders will still end on March 10th. So now they're kind of spreading the timeline for between renewals and new orders. So because they're using these terms that, you and I may think, okay, what's a renewal? What's a new order? We can kind of guess what it is. But in the world of Microsoft, it's very important to understand what they mean with those definitions. So let's go with some definitions. A new order is when a license type is added for the first time on a Microsoft 365 tenant, through a specific channel. So if you have customers that have Exchange Online Plan 1, they've had Exchange Online Plan 1 for years, and today is the first day that you add M365 Business Basic, this creates a new order. So that's the first time that you add this license type. Adding extra seats of an existing subscription does not qualify as a new order. Okay, that's within the term. So the first time you add one type of product in a tenant through a specific channel is a new order. What it does is that it creates that annual subscription. Some of our partners on the call may know this from their prior experience as a direct CSP. So on the legacy platform, it's always annual orders. There's only one SKU, and then you have two payment options. Prepaid, which is what we consider here as true annual SKUs. You pay up front for the whole year, or the monthly payment that pretty much 99% of our partners are used to. There are no penalties for adding or removing seats with the monthly option with Sherweb. Everything is prorated. So I'm just stating the obvious. How things have been working for years at Sherweb. You remove a license in the middle of the month, you get a half charge for it. You add a license in the middle of the month, you get a half charge for it. It's all prorated, to the day. And now for a renewal. So a renewal is when an annual subscription, so what we've decided, and what was a new order, has reached a full year since it was first added. So it's called its anniversary date. So after a year that you've had a license that you've been paying monthly, that you can cancel at any time, it still becomes this anniversary. Subscriptions will cease to auto-renew on June 30th, 2022. So this was the announcement. So that whenever you have subscriptions that you've been with Sherweb, your customers in Cumulus have been in there for years, whenever it reaches their anniversary date, past June 30th, it will no longer auto-renew like it's been doing for years. Like you were probably not even aware that it was renewing in those other years. So you'll have to be ready to move your customers to NCE at the early, The earliest that you will have to do something is whenever your existing customers have renewals after June 30th. And then the last tidbit of information on this is that the March 1st price increase is only going to impact existing subscriptions upon renewal. So this was something that I had, lots of questions to Microsoft about. There was lots of confusion about how it was going to work. Was it going to be a blanket, price increase? Anything that's on the legacy platform after March 1st, you go into Cumulus, all your prices have increased. But no, some of us that have been around forever know that in Canada in 2018 there was a price increase, and it worked exactly this way. So if you are adding, new customers right now, the price that you're giving them is good for a year because these are new subscriptions with a whole year before their renewal. So before the price increase will take effect. So I'm going to go into.
That's a big change.
It does make a huge difference, and to me, it feels like a lot of pressure is being removed, on the partner's shoulders to get everything done, January, February. Right now you can have a campaign in December, add customers before the end of the year. It's on the legacy platform. You'll be price protected for a whole year. You'll have the old cancellation policy, all the promotion, and I believe some of our, esteemed rivals are running promotions, exactly on this concept.
Well, you have 100 customers that you have to convert all at once. That's going to be a nightmare. So I'm glad that it's going to be a bit easier.
Yeah, you want to stagger. You want to, So I do have some examples. So the first one is, let's say January 2022. You land this new customer, Jojo from Tucson, Arizona, right? Who is adding, 10 licenses of Business Basic on the legacy platform. His regular price, $5 a SKU. Well, in March 2022, what is his invoice going to look like? Exactly the same thing, because the subscription was created in January, so he has until January 2023 before he's faced, with the price increase. So this is going to be, an easy way, and any new customer that you have January, February next year, it's business as usual, but you can add that extra, argument that moving in now before the price increase protects you for a year. Second example, let's say this was someone that you had onboarded April of 2021. Same customer, same licenses, same concept, but because in April 2022, it will be their renewal, it will be a full year since they've had that subscription, they will face the price increase on the legacy platform. So without any actions, from the partner, their next invoice will have that extra dollar per Business Basic. And by the way, I'm putting these examples, and I am well aware that we have a lot of Canadian partners as well. We will be sharing the deck, and there are the equivalent Canadian examples available. I've just hidden the slides right now for expediency's sake, so that I can, make jokes and talk about other things more.
And just quickly, Alex, because we've started getting some questions coming in, which is great. It's the question, and I'm sure you're already prepared for this, but they're asking about how they can see the anniversary dates in Cumulus, right? So how do they go ahead and see which clients expire on which dates and all that sort of
stuff? And unfortunately, I do have the answer, which is there is no easy way to know when there is no anniversary date shown anywhere in Cumulus. The thing that you can do with Cumulus to find out when it was, it's through your invoices. Through, you do a search, because you do have the archiving of all your invoices. So if it was someone that you added, around March of last year, you go back in Cumulus, you check to see when was the first time you added those licenses, and that's your anniversary date.
I would also add the logs as well. You can reference the logs. It's probably a little bit quicker. And in the worst case scenario, reach out to your sales rep. If you have several and it's going to take you forever, reach out to your account management team and we'll be able to help you out with that.
Exactly. One other way, right, to find out is to say, well, since the renewals will be allowed, between March 1st and June 30th, I'm going to, kind of watch my invoices. And whenever I see, a price jump, say in May with, customer X, because their renewal was in May, that's when I'm going to have the conversation with them about flipping them over to NCE. So that would be more of a lazy person's approach, which is sometimes commendable because there's less moving parts, and with everything changing from Microsoft, that could work. Or, you could as well do the same thing that we've been advertising whenever you're not sure and you feel that this customer will want to have everything, price locked as possible, is to take the prepaid annual SKUs, in January or February, so that you're for sure protected for a whole year on those. There will also be options, on the NCE platform as well. So it's going to be important to have those types of conversations with your customers when the time comes. But it is a great question, and if there was an easy way, and I've checked, in the M365 Admin Center, in the Partner Center, from an indirect reseller's perspective, I did not find an easy way to see that anniversary date, unfortunately.
I would just specify easy way, no, but there are definitely ways to go ahead and get.
Exactly. It's work for that. The good news is that on the NCE platform, all those dates will be displayed in Cumulus, because since there are true annual SKUs and true monthly SKUs on the NCE platform, everything will be shown there. A third example, which is very straightforward as well. Say you onboarded someone in September, just a couple months ago, and licensed to Business Basic. Well, when it comes time for their renewal in September of next year, they will not be able to renew on the legacy platform. At that point, they will have to move to NCE. And from what I understand, Microsoft is providing tools for providers and partners so that this migration, if you will, that this switch of platform by that time will be done automatically. So there's not going to be any, waking up, my licenses are no longer working, reduced functionality, and all of that. They will be flipped over automatically. The price increase itself, putting it on the board in case anyone still hasn't seen it. It's available from the Microsoft blog. It's the 6 SKUs that are going up. No other price increase has been announced as far as the licenses are concerned. I've even put it in Canadian as much as possible. We know that Microsoft likes to round up the pennies, so these prices may change depending on the exchange rate at the time. So we'll know for sure what it's going to be in February and not before. But I thought it would be important to give our Canadian partners at least a good estimate as to what it's going to look like coming up then. Any other questions on the legacy platform so far?
So one quick thing, I do see some hands raised. Just a note to the participants: we will not be taking questions via audio right now, but I am actively monitoring the chat, so please go ahead and do that. It would just be too difficult to manage the time otherwise. So please send them there. We'll make sure we address as many as we can. Those that we don't, we actually get all this data afterwards, so we'll go ahead and have our account management team contact you. But yes, Alex, we have some questions.
Okay.
So one that I already answered, but I'll say anyways. I think it'll help for people that have been in this situation. The question is, what about customers who move from other partners CSP to directly to their CSP? Is there an anniversary date still when they move to the CSP? Yes, you do CSP transfers. We're adding new subscriptions, so definitely we'll want to double check what those are. Very important there. So we have a question that there will be options to see anniversary dates in NCE. Yes, Alex, I believe you mentioned that that's coming to Cumulus as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It will be live. You will be able to plan because you will be able to see, from a customer. Let's say that they have business premium. Which one are the annual SKUs and which ones are the monthly SKUs. When the renewal date is for both the monthly and the annual, and if you've turned on auto renew for both type of SKUs, because as we know, the cancellation policy on NCE is much stricter. You get 72 hours when you first create the subscription, or 72 hours when you add seats to an existing subscription midterm. But after those 72 hours, there is no refund available. So we will definitely make sure that you have all that information right away in Cumulus to be able to make the appropriate decisions.
Excellent. I have one, Sheila. Yes, Dynamics licenses are impacted by this as far as everything's getting moved over. In terms of pricing increases, I don't believe they've announced what those will be. That's still TBD, but they will be moved into the new commerce portal, much like M365 will be.
Exactly. Yeah. The information that we have is that, the only price increase is on the 6 license types that we've shown on the screen. So everything Dynamics is not going up in price per se. But as with everything on the new commerce experience, you'll now have a choice between annual or monthly. And whenever you take annual, you pretty much have 2 months free compared to the monthly SKU. Or if you want to do it backwards, the monthly SKU has a 20% premium on the annual SKU. So if you had, highly fluctuating, Business Central, Dynamics 365 type deployments, it will be a good idea to have those conversations with those customers to see, how many of those licenses you want to lock down with the annual SKU, keeping the same price, and how many licenses you want to have on the monthly SKU that has a more expensive price. I would, presume team member licenses would likely stay on the monthly type SKU, but premium licenses would move to a annual type of licensing.
And we'll stay on top of that one too. For those of you that are offering a lot of Dynamics, it's a big focus of ours. We have dedicated resources specifically for it, so we'll make sure to keep it going. This is good, Alex. Lots of questions, so get ready for them. And then let me know. Some of them we may address in the next section, so I'll try to filter these just to make sure that we are efficient here. Super quickly, had a question. I put it in the chat. I want to iterate. So when we're talking about legacy platform, we're not necessarily talking about Cumulus. What we're talking about is the current way of provisioning CSP licenses.
Yeah.
So Cumulus is going to work with both NCE and legacy. It's the portal that you use to provision, but on the back end, NCE and legacy exist. So when we talk about legacy, it's, as you know, provisioning and licensing now. And when we talk about NCE, it's what's to come. I would highly recommend checking out our part 1. So if anybody hasn't seen that yet, I don't know if we mentioned in the beginning, this is really an update version of this fireside chat. The first fireside chat goes into more detail about that on there. Yes, we'll make sure, Tony, we get you the blog post that talked about the price increases. Sorry, I want to go quickly through these, Alex, just to make sure. Somebody asked as well, can we get a confirmation on dates? We're actually going to show you a roadmap, so that'll be coming up in a bit. I have a good one here from Don, which is, would you guys discuss how we can use this change to run a conversation campaign? So to actually reach out to customers and start having the conversation of maybe converting some that aren't with you, or obviously having to have that discussion. So Alex, give me tips for any of the partners out there in terms of how to start communicating this.
Well, it would really be to reach out as much as possible, in all the different ways, whether it's an email campaign, an update on your website, some posts on LinkedIn and other social media. Maybe not a TikTok video challenge, like that might be a little bit too much, but it is a great opportunity to have conversations with new customers, prospect customers, because they should have heard at least, some wind of the price increase that's coming. They don't know the details. They're hesitant. You come in as the expert partner. I know, what's about to happen, and I have a great opportunity for you, Mr. Customer. You switch to us right now, in December or in January. It's going to protect you from that price increase for a full year. You're going to have the full functionality. You're going to be, having all of the inherited, benefits from the legacy platform as a new customer. And this, could be all that you have to say for those customers who have heard, about having to lock in and, even if, people leave or if the company goes under, still having those bills to pay and creditors and all of that. So anytime you can kind of dissipate the fog of misinformation that's going out there, they're going to latch onto you for that. If you had customers, that were waiting before moving to the cloud, because they still had a server and they weren't, planning to do it until April, May, June, maybe even like 2024 and all of that. Well, having that discussion with them about, locking in pricing on NC for a full year, you can do the math with them. You can kind of see, where the argument goes. So I would do it. If I weren't delivering these type of webinars constantly and educating our partners, this would be what I would want to focus on. A campaign, just to say. Oh, go ahead.
He specified his question. Maybe I misunderstood it. Sorry, Don. He said he's also asking about the customers, or he is asking about the customers that buy directly from Microsoft. Are they being converted by Microsoft? I'd assume yes.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And because it is a different channel, it would be, whenever you transfer them over to Sherweb, it would create those new subscriptions. So even though, for the end customer, their bill is changing from Microsoft to the partner, they are actually benefiting from having their anniversary date reset as well. Yes, and I
The
do believe
conversation
that
would be, come to us. We have a new anniversary date. You're going to be able to extend it a bit further.
exactly start fresh.
But
And
yes, the answer is Microsoft will be doing this as well. It's not just CSPs that are impacted. So if you're dealing a lot with customers that are a little bit more difficult that say, well, why would I come to you if I can go Microsoft Direct? They're going to be having the same conversation, and you can be much more prepared with the changes that are coming than an automated system will.
Yep, and one argument could be the fact that the annual SKU on Microsoft Direct, as we all know, their cancellation was never enforced. There was never any type of penalty for changing from an annual SKU with Microsoft directly to either CSP transfer or to just flat out cancel and all of that. Well, that's going to be enforced now with the NCE. So those customers, that were, kind of not paying attention, they knew that there was a price difference, but they were like, oh yeah, I'm just canceling and, I get the refund, it doesn't matter. Well,
Mm-hmm.
that they should pay attention to. So that might be a great way in as well for a conversation starter.
And I mean, realistically, it's a similar conversation that you would have had in the past, in terms of how is the customer taken care of by Microsoft. Microsoft's a big entity. They hardly get off the phone or get on the phone unless it's for something like Coca-Cola, right? So imagine if they get confused over the NCE billing, can't figure out why it's locked in for a year. Now they've just accidentally gotten into something else. Being that expert and understanding how the license management works is going to be incredibly important in terms of where your value is in this transition and where Microsoft is, and as well making sure that before the transition happens, you can come in and give recommendations to the customer, I should say, in terms of what they should set up so that they take the most advantage of the programs that are out there. I'm going to move to another one, Alex, because we have just quite a few. It's quite nice.
Those are excellent points, by the way.
Pardon?
Excellent points, by the way.
Oh, I'll take credit for everybody else's questions. Yes, this is going to be recorded. So this is a good one from Mark, which is, who is responsible for payment if a customer goes belly up during a yearly contract?
Well, it goes up the chain, right? It starts with the customer, right? So you would be a creditor, for this customer going under. And then if the partner decides, not to pay, well, the provider is left with the obligation to pay. So it's pretty much like, everybody's vouching for everybody down the line, all the way up to Microsoft. So the customer is responsible. If he doesn't pay, the responsibility falls onto the partner. If they don't pay, the responsibility falls onto the indirect provider. And then obviously, if the indirect provider doesn't pay, then Microsoft, would have the risk on there. I still hope, maybe it's a false hope, but I still hope that there will be some changes before March on that as well, because it does still feel pretty restrictive. But because of all the other, ways that NCE helps and how you can understand how you can, you can add licenses, in during your term without having to create a whole new commitment and all that. I do feel that, yeah, that the change is going to be less, less rough, less violent than what a lot of partners expect. Like what was the was it FDR or Churchill? We don't think we have to fear is fear itself, right? So I think there's a lot of Churchill. Okay, so there's a lot of fear, right now about fearing what's coming. But once you get into it, once you see the sandbox, once you see the Cumulus platform, you're like, oh, okay, this is like a lot of other industries, have been doing for years.
Well, and I mean, realistically, we had contracts where there was always a reason for being able to get out of it. Look at our eyes, they have exceptions all the time. So, but one thing is for sure that we are putting pressure on Microsoft to answer some of these questions. So, if somebody goes belly up, and unfortunately we haven't had an answer yet, we will fight for you with Microsoft to do our utmost to make sure that we're protecting not only ourselves but yourself and eventually the customer, even though they're belly up. But regardless, it is something that we're very cautious of because there's other questions in the chat that we don't necessarily have all the answers yet. But things like what happens if the customer decides to go to another MSP mid contract? How does that impact it? Who's responsible at that point? What if they stop paying, right? So there's a lot of those billing components that I think for now we've heard there are going to be, well, there's rumors going around, that there are going to be flexibilities available,
Mhm.
and there are some questions that are still unanswered in terms of how do we transition those things. So those ones, we'll make sure to keep everybody up to date, and hopefully, like Alex said, there'll be kind of maybe a come to Jesus moment, and we won't have all these restrictions, but we'll see it there. Now, one question that's come up a few times is. And well, first of all, yes, Warren, you're right. Reading between the lines, it's a great time to buy Microsoft stock. Definitely has a lot to do with the stockholders. So yeah, I would definitely recommend if you haven't. I think they took a dip recently, so it's a good time to buy. But in terms of the pricing, other questions that I have here are what's the percentage of discount for yearly? And I think somebody was asking about the 3 year as well. Have we heard anything about what the 3 year commitment discounting is going to look like?
Not yet, but there better be some because otherwise there's strictly no reason to go with 3 year versus 1 year.
Unless they're going to up the price again.
Right, but at that point, lock in the 3 year right before the price increase. Once that river, comes up on the landscape. But those are more on the NCE side, for the 3 years offers and all of that. So if you'd like, we can move to the NCE timeline, NCE example. We will have another Q&A on that as well. Or do you feel there's still too many questions?
Team, and please, everybody in the audience, if your questions haven't been answered, I apologize. We'll get, like Alex said, there's another Q&A section. Spam the chat if you need to, but we'll also make sure to follow up after the fact with everybody. We have a list of who's asking the question. So long as you put your name in correctly, we should be able to figure out who you are, and we can follow up with other ones. But just quickly, seems like some people have had conversations with Microsoft, Alex, about customers going belly up, and it looks like Microsoft's saying that it's on partners. So we'll follow up more ourselves on that as well. There are certain things that we can't control, and I'm sure Microsoft will understand.
But it is true. Microsoft's initial position is that any type of commitment that you sign up for, either on behalf of your customer through the MPA or the Microsoft Customer End Agreement, you will be responsible for. So right now, that is their initial position, and that's what we're trying to get them to reconsider.
And us with you as well, right? Because we make as soon as the partner makes a commitment, so does Sherweb. So
exactly. And there are lots of forums out there. There is a brand new thread on Reddit from yesterday, about NCE feedback, where they encourage partners to let Microsoft know how they feel about those changes. So make your voices heard. So for the NCE timeline update, there hasn't been any new updates on NCE. So I just wanted to reiterate the latest announcement, which was when they said that they delayed the introduction, the general availability from NCE. It was supposed to be released on October 1st, then October 14th. Then they renamed October 14th a technical release, and the general availability is supposed to be in early January 2022. Early January, not a specific date yet. So as soon as they lock in a specific date, we'll be sure to let you know. But there is a full section of readiness assets and partner training. Microsoft is hosting some webinars on this as well, and they do have some experts, that they can answer some questions. So I do recommend to at least check out the readiness assets. Some of them have like templates on how to talk to customers about the price increase. There's one slide that shows, all the value that Microsoft has added to the existing SKUs since 2011, to kind of justify that this price increase isn't just inflation. It really is an update as to what value these licenses bring and what price point they should have. So for some examples on NCE, there's a very similar concept. So if you have a customer in February 2022 that you want to add some business basic monthly licenses, you will pay the monthly price on NCE, which before the price increase is $6 monthly. And since this would be a monthly SKU, the March invoice for this same customer would be liable to the price increase, which would put their monthly price up to $7.20 US per license. So this is a jump, for the NC platform as well, from before the price increase to after the price increase on those SKUs. But as we've established before, whenever you create a subscription for the first time, that's what creates its terms. So, whoops. So for the second example, if you were to purchase in February on the new commerce experience platform, 10 licenses of Business Basic annual paid monthly, so that's that annual commitment that we're talking about. So these would be the committed SKUs. Your paid monthly price would be $5 a month, which is the equivalent of the legacy price right now. And then come March 2022, well, you would still have that same price. You would be price protected because you still have 10 months left on your current subscription. So you wouldn't face the price increase even though you're on the NCE platform until February 2023. So that's also another way. I didn't want to, kind of give that one away before on the legacy platform. Like if you can't figure out what your anniversary date is for your end customers, for certain important customers, well, you may want to move them to NCE in February before the price increase with the annual SKU so that you're also locking in that price before the price increase.
And keep in mind, this would have been something that we would address on the first fireside chat. So again, if anybody hasn't attended that, please go check that out. There's some great information in there. So I'm just going to mention it. I don't think we mentioned it earlier. Just to be very specific, you don't have to lock in your customers, right? I know there's definitely a few comments coming in here, in terms of being, what if the customer can't pay, all that sort of good stuff. It's you can go monthly, which is the example that Alex is showing here. That's still definitely an option. The reason that people are wanting to leverage the yearly, albeit there's a lot of restrictions with how you can manage the licenses, is really to kind of keep the same price you're used to today. That's really the benefit from a pricing perspective. But if you do have a firm that you're working with that's on the edge of bankruptcy, you're having constant conversations with them, you understand their business, you know there's a bit of a financial concern, don't lock in for a year, right? Don't risk it. We'll keep on pushing and make sure that those that to keep asking about who's on the hook, right? But quite frankly, as well, I wouldn't recommend locking in somebody that's a little bit shadier. And then for those saying it, absolutely, paying up front for a year is a great option to avoid issues if they have the budget for it. I would definitely recommend going for yearly payments from your customers for this.
Exactly, and I do know of a lot of partners that do that already. That they pre-bill their customers, for a year, even if they do take the monthly payment schedule on the back end, and that's perfectly fine as well. That's a great way to protect yourself. And the other argument, about the annual billing is that, let's say, it's only going to be absolutely horrible if your end customer goes belly up in the first couple months of your annual licensing. By month 10, you'll, even if you pay two extra months on you're already saving compared to the monthly SKU. So it still would have been a smart decision. By month 8 or 9, you're close to the break even point. So it really is not as bad as some of us have been kind of thinking about
it. Way of looking at it.
Yeah, it's one of those things, right? Like having both sides of the conversation, projecting your fears onto end customers. Those end customers deal with other vendors, non-IT vendors, because obviously all partners have anything related to IT for their customers. And whenever they have to buy office supplies, or they have to pay for insurance, or they have any other type of costs, those types of scenarios are already existing. They're used to it. The end customers are used to these types of payment schedules a lot more than we are. So it really is, get that conversation going. Get those ask questions if they've thought about it, if they heard of it, anything like that. to see where they stand, to see if they share those same fears, to see if they want, if they've already thought about putting some budget aside to lock in pricing, to take advantage of that, or if because of their highly, fluctuating type of business, think of a travel agency right now. I wouldn't lock in anything for a year. Working at a travel agency, they'll understand that it's part of doing business. Why is it more expensive to rent than to buy, right?
Yeah,
That's
and to add to this too, because I see some chats coming in here. So Kevin brought up this point. I just want to address it with everybody. He mentioned, at what point in our agreement does it say that you're on the hook? Today, we don't have the yearly contracts that we have with NCE, right? So keeping in mind that if you have 365 through us today and you're paying month to month, you cancel proration is still there, right? It's when we convert into the new commerce experience that there are those agreements, and then those are the agreements that have the new legal language. Because and we'll talk about the timeline in a second, but because we're not fully launched and we don't have, and that's just because Microsoft isn't either, right? They're in their early adopters and they're testing it as well. We don't have all the language there. But one thing to definitely keep in mind is take a look at the language that's going to be provided, right? Make sure that you understand the commitments that you're making. Whenever locking in on behalf of somebody, Microsoft may have not enforced it before, but now they are. So it's very important to understand what contracts you are signing and what liabilities there may be. So I know our team's definitely going over it and taking a look at it. We'll see if we can get some tips and tricks and things that we see through there. Alex spends his nights reading about this stuff, so he gets a look at it. But we recommend, before anybody makes any sort of commitment, take a look at what the contracts will say. Again, that's not today, right? Today's what we have in place is the same thing that we have in place. It's really going to be once you go to lock in for that year. Make sure that you understand the contracts. We'll continue to do these updates, and we'll definitely share what we know. And if there are loopholes in the contract that say, hey, if they go out of business, you don't have to pay, we will find them because we will want to use them as well because we're going to be on the hook also. So We're in this together. We don't have all the information in terms of what their legal terms will be yet.
But we will get them.
Yes, that's absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Okay. So now moving to the NCA offers right now, in the sandbox environment, Microsoft has published them. And again, I do have them in Canadian as well, just the slide is hidden. So for our Canadian partners, you will have access to this deck after the call. So we can see that right now with the NCA offers, if you take the annual SKUs and you divide them by 12, you get the same monthly price that we have on the legacy platform, which is why in the earlier example, when I talked about the annual SKU on NCE, it is that $5 a month for business basic, even after March next year for that. So it does kind of show the relationship between the monthly with the 20% premium versus the annual SKU. But what I would recommend, just to your point earlier, whenever you're talking to a new customer, you're talking about the NCE offers, don't talk about the annual pricing first and then say for a premium of 20%, you can get the monthly SKUs. It would be more, give them the monthly price first and then say, but if you want to commit for a year or at least, on at least, half of these or 80% of these, this is how much, you would save extra. But you are committing for a year, there is no way out of this. It must be paid. So to me, that would be a nicer approach to talk annual as the, savings SKU instead of the monthly as the premium, 20% price increase type SKU. In NCE, after March 1st, the price increase will be applied as well. So for all new offers on NCE and monthly renewals as well, this is what the pricing is going to look like. So same concept as well. You take the monthly SKU, you do times 10, you get the annual pricing. So whenever you take the annual pricing, you pretty much have 2 months off of the regular monthly pricing. I am putting the Canadian offers as well, if any of them want to take a screenshot. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then what it's going to look like after March 1st. Again, likely that Microsoft is going to remove the they're going to round off at some point, for the pennies because they don't like the pennies. It's just that I didn't want to make that assumption, on my own. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, there is a full asset collection of resources all about NCE, all about the incentives updates, all about pretty much anything that's coming out related to NCE. They even have some things on the Windows 365 on there. Some of the APIs that some partners may want to use to co-sell offers. This is a great place to go see anything that's upcoming, any webinars that Microsoft would have on NCE, any other assets like templates for customer email campaigns and all that will be in this section. And then finally, a less hard exactly, I was going to say like a less psychedelic timeline that shows the NCE progression as we know it today. So the initial one,
asterisk, this could change.
Yes, yes, and I mean, and at this point, it's like hopefully some of this will change before it's actually launched. So October 1st was the FY22 launch of the incentives, right? And then the technical release was done for NCE in January 2022, so less than a month away. There is going to be the official launch of NCE, for CSP. So this is, we don't have a day yet, but Microsoft is saying that it's early January that the general availability will be worldwide, for everyone. And I believe you told me, Nick, that you wanted to say something at this point.
I do. Yeah, I do. We try to time it properly. That was a very smooth transition. So, as much as there's a lot of things that are coming up that we're not the most excited about, and there are going to be very difficult things. What we are happy to be able to say is that we're very excited to be on the right path to setting up our systems to play nicely with NCE. So. It's not on here, but we will be launching over the next month our early adopter program with a few partners. Really, what we're doing here is like we've done with everything, is we're just putting it through the ringer and trying to break it. So we really want to make sure: does this work? Does it tie into Cumulus? Is everything displaying properly? How does the ordering work? Right. So it's not just okay, great, we're going to launch when we have to launch. Having never tested it, we're going to get a few months under our belt to really give it all we've got to make sure that we can be prepared for this. So there are certain things that we'll only know once we start doing it, and we're happy to be able to say that we're going to be doing that live with partners, like we've done with everything else that we've launched, to make sure that hey, this works well. So if anybody has any feedback on things that they'd like to know that we haven't been able to answer during during these sessions, please continue to communicate your questions to your account management team. We'll make sure that we get the information. Some of them we'll just have to test it out to get, but definitely excited to be able to say that we're going to be doing this now because we've set all of our priorities from our dev team on new commerce. We had a lot of different projects that have been put on hold because of how important this is for our partners and because of what it means for the CSP space. And we're excited to be able to say that we're going to be testing this now that we've had it all set up properly.
So then after that, there's going to be the dreaded, no, I mean the foretold, the Ides of March 1st, the price increase is going to be live across all channels. So again, this is going to affect Web Direct. This is going to affect anything that's in CSP across all providers, across all markets. So no one is going to say, oh no, NC, the price increase is not affecting me. Of course, anything that's in the government space and nonprofit and education is always 6 months behind, but they will be affected as well. Then little timeline moving up, and please, I hope none of you have a prior life as a geometry professor, because the gaps between the timelines do not reflect the days between them. So as of March 9th, it will be the last chance on the legacy platform to create new orders. And as we mentioned at the beginning, creating a new order is the first time a subscription type is added. So if your customer already has some business basic, adding extra business basic, to the existing subscription will be fine. You'll be able to, to add and remove them on the legacy platform. But it's that first business basic that creates the subscription will only be allowed on the legacy platform until March 9th, so that anything new as of March 10th will be on NCE. And then the next fateful date is June 30th of next year, where all of the renewals will no longer be done on NCE. So I do feel that for a lot of our partners, when because we know, like we try to contact our partners, we try to let them know as much as possible about this. A lot of you, especially the ones that are here, find this important. They're paying attention, but I'm sure it's the same thing on your side. You want to let all of your customers know, but there's a great portion of your customers that just they don't read your newsletter, they don't reply to your email, they have other priorities right now, they're not checking. So I do feel that July is when a lot of end customers are going to wake up and see that they've been, either moved to NCE because of the renewal date or of the price increase stuff. So I think that those nice summer days, are going to have a lot of moving platforms for everyone. Then at some point in 2022, hopefully closer to March than December, new offers are going to be made available in NCA. We're looking at the hybrid use benefits, the home upgrade program, and my personal favorite, the multi-geo feature. We did talk about them a little bit more in the September fireside chat. Of course, we do believe that at some point in March, they're also going to announce what those 3-year offers discounts are going to be. What advantage someone will have to go on a 3-year instead of a 1-year. We'll also hear about any other new offers that they're going to bring. I don't know if some of you have heard, but there's a lot of Teams stuff coming, like a Teams phone is being rebranded again. So that's going to be new offers as well in NCE. They've also announced, I think just yesterday, that anything that was missing as far as telecom SKUs for NCE for Canada will be available as of January. So there shouldn't be any gap in service offering for that. Then the next date, end of legacy incentives, October 1st, 2022. So that's one point that I do want to bring up. Like, let's say you are courting new customers and you say, hey, we want to lock in your price, up to a year. Move with us right now in December or in January on the legacy platform. If you do so, this is great for the customer. They're going to get the best price, all of the functionality. But as of October 1st of next year, the backend incentives. So if you are a silver partner or above and you are enrolled properly, hopefully you are. Hopefully you've talked to me at least once and you're enrolled properly. Those
if you're not
incentives.
you have to talk to Alex. That's
yeah, exactly.
a reminder for everybody here.
So as of October 1st, the legacy, like the CSP and direct reseller, that nice little blue flyer that I show everyone, those are going away. So it would be a good idea to have a reminder with those customers, that you're bringing in now, between now and February of next year, on the legacy platform, that you may want to have another conversation with them come October about now making the move to NCE, because all of the incentives that are part of legacy right now will be transferred to NCE. So there's not going to be a whole new set of hoops to jump through as a partner. Like if you're getting incentives now on legacy, you will get incentives on NCE, but it's going to matter, where your customers are at that point, right? So that's going to be the next important deadline. And then finally, June 30th, deprecation of legacy platforms, so that as of July 2023, everyone is on NCE. And then we can finally start talking about everything else that's going on in the world and not platform and billing changes.
The 5th new variant that's going to come out by then. That'll be the next topic.
As Nick mentioned, and it is on the bottom of the slide, this is all still subject to change. Obviously, the situation is still fluid. We are still talking to Microsoft, trying to see if we can improve the experience, improve the transition for our partners and for end customers, while reducing the stress and the pressure of this very aggressive timeline. It brings us
good, because we have a lot.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Awesome. Great. So thank you, Alex. This is wonderful. Again, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it too. If anybody has any wants more information on some of the stuff that we may have briefly touched on, but didn't spend a lot of time on, like the specifics of what is NCE. If anybody's sitting here going, "What is NCE?" Please check out the first fireside chat. I believe it's on our YouTube. Email your sales team or your rep. If not, we'll send you the link. We're going to send you the link to this one, but that first one really does talk a lot about those details in there. But let's jump into it. So we have a couple questions. One from Justin. So Justin asks, will Cumulus rework to support the NCE incorporate the ability to sell and manage perpetual and on-prem licensing? And then any other changes or opportunities for CSP with the open volume licensing going away. So kind of a two-parter for you.
Yeah, so definitely. So this has been in the work a bit earlier. Nick mentioned how our whole dev team kind of put on hold a lot of projects to work for NCE for M365, D365. This was one of them. So once we are live on NCE, anything that was open volume, as hopefully most of you know, and if not, do check out the September fireside chat on this. Open volume is three programs.
Mm-hmm.
It's open license, open value, and open value subscription. The open license, where software assurance was optional, is going away at the end of this year. Any renewals, any new orders have to be done through CSP. The nuance is that CSP does not offer software assurance. So that is your $1 million question with your end customers that have been dealing with open volume. Do you want software assurance? If they say yes, you stay with open volume, you move them to open value. If they say no, you buy them from CSP. And yes, it will be available in Cumulus. You'll have the whole list of the perpetual licensing and even the software subscriptions as well, that you can purchase directly in the portal self-serve. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, Alex. And just a reminder for everybody, we have 6 minutes. So we will, like I said, we'll try to get to as many of these as possible. I will also ask the team to follow up with you afterwards for those that have left their contact information. And maybe next time we add on an extra 20 minutes for more questions. So I'm sure there'll be more next time as well. So this is one. I mean, I believe the answer is yes still for this. I know we were still on the fence, or at least we thought it was. We can mix, or can we mix monthly and annual commits on NCE?
Absolutely. Yeah. We will see, in Cumulus, M365 Business Basic monthly is one SKU, M365 Business Annual is another SKU, and you'll have the option, pay upfront for the annual SKU or pay monthly. So you're going to have all of those in Cumulus. And whenever you have an annual subscription that's going and you want to add seats, you just dial up. You can do it midterm. The following invoice will reflect those charges. So say you have monthly SKUs and you add a license mid-month. Well, on the next month, you will have that partial charge for the month that just happened, and then the full charge as with all the other SKUs for what's coming. And for the annual SKUs, same thing. If you add a license 6 months, if you had a seat 6 months into your term, if you were paying annually, you only see that 6-month charge at the next billing cycle, which would be annual. But if you're choosing, annual paid monthly, you will see it on your next monthly invoice, that partial charge of adding that extra seat.
Excellent. But we can't do legacy and NCE. It's one or the other. In terms of, you can't mix programs, but you can mix commits. If, for example, I couldn't have my E3s stay on legacy, but then buy, a business premium or something, or standard on NCE,
Well,
same organization.
I'll have to double check, but from what I understand, yes, you would be able to have both together. Yeah. The only thing I'm fairly confident. I will double check just in case, because like you asked me to spell something, I know how to spell it until you ask me, right? But the only thing that I did not have confirmation on was that, let's say you have business premium, on legacy, and it's after, it's April 2022, and you want to add business voice, or some of the new teams, the new SKUs that are coming out, will you be able to just add the business voice,
Hmm.
without any other requirements because business premium is already present? Or will you need to add at least one license of business premium on the NCE platform in order for the system to allow you to add
Oh,
as
geez.
many business voices as possible? So that I do not have a confirmation yet.
You're getting in the
Um,
weeds now.
well, yeah, and whenever I have those questions, we have our Microsoft rep that kind of warns the other Microsoft people that my questions are not going to be the typical type of questions. They usually go unanswered. They usually go like, "Oh, we'll take this to the team. We'll take this to the team." As soon as
Yeah.
I have confirmation on that one, I will let you guys know. But I do feel that what you were talking about, the January early
Hmm.
adopter, let's break stuff, let's push it. That's going to be
That's gonna be
item
a
one.
good time to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
No, no, I appreciate that. And so one other one I want to ask. We'll see if we can sneak in two or three more before we hop off. So we'll try to do them quick. Incentives. So are incentives dropping off for legacy when we launch new commerce? Do they stick around until we convert them? How does that work? How are the incentives going to work?
Some incentives from the legacy platform will start to retire as of January. They haven't
We know
specified
the list.
which ones yet, but
Okay.
I do believe, and this would, make sense, which is not always the case, but it would make sense. It is the customer ad incentives
Yeah, that makes
because
sense.
those, yeah, since they don't want people to, they don't want to encourage people to add customer on the legacy platform a month before it goes away. It may be those incentives that go away. But just to be clear, the customer ad incentive isn't about the transfer type of play we're talking about. These are like brand new to Microsoft type customers, so are from on-prem or from G Suite or whatever other platform to Microsoft. Those customer ad incentives will be added to the NCE incentives. So if you have that scenario of a brand new customer coming, we will likely encourage you to go right away to NCE so that you can get the regular incentives plus those customer ad ones. But otherwise, it's not until the end of September of 2022 that the legacy incentives will be going away.
Okay. And anybody that hasn't already had an MPN consultation or booked it yet with us, make sure to do so. We can make sure everything's healthy, looks good. We can even create a cadence with you. That way the reps, follow up to make sure, hey, are there changes to the incentive program? We'll do our best to reach out to everybody. And typically we try to do it from the sales people. That way it's not a marketing email that goes to the junk folder. No offense to those that are on here, but sometimes that tends to happen. So marketing team's gonna kill me for that one. But we'll try to reach out as well to make sure that you guys, you get access to this stuff. If you haven't had one yet, if you don't know what MPN consultation means, reach out to your account rep, please. Benjamin can attest to this in the chat. He says Alex gives the best partner reviews, so good. So please make sure to get on those calls. It also helps his ego when he gets good feedback.
Yes,
So we like doing that.
exactly.
Good. Now we're unfortunately out of time, everybody. I know I wanted to get three out, but that was a good one to get out. So I apologize. Again, this is recorded. We'll make sure to send everybody the recording of this. If I'm not mistaken, maybe I'm speaking out of line here, but I know it is recorded, so we'll make sure we get that off to you. Please check out the first one if you haven't, and we will be in touch with to answer the questions that we haven't. And Alex, I'll let you wrap if you have anything else you want to close with.
So, yeah, so on behalf of myself and from Nick, thank you everyone for joining and participating. I am always surprised, how much people participate on these, but it's a welcome change because, as some of you probably know, for other presentations, you always want to have like a couple questions yourself prepared in case nobody has any. But I was very confident that we didn't have to prepare any questions for this one. It's such a hot topic. So again,
We
thanks
were
again,
allowed to
everyone.
wing it this time.
Have a good lunch, everyone, and have a great holiday season if we don't speak before then.
Thank you, everybody. Take care.